Hi everyone, Karina here from yarn2talk.ca, and today I am super excited to be doing a full-length video tutorial on how to make this little baby alien doll. Okay, and then also we're going to be making the coat to go along with him. And if you want the pattern, it's a free pattern over on my website for his little buddy. I'll give you the link to my website so you can download that pattern. But today we're not going to be making this guy in the video tutorial, but he is a free pattern on my website. And for this video, just a few notes here before we get into it too deep. I wanted to let you know that this is going to be a long video. I'm going to go nice and slow. I'm going to walk you through the full pattern for this doll step by step, so it's going to be long, but if you want to jump ahead and just go and purchase that pattern, I'll put a link to that down below. The pattern is actually really easy to follow, and it has tons of photos, step-by-step tutorials for photos to show you how to do everything. So if you want to just print that out, you can purchase that on Etsy or Ravelry, and I'll put a link to that down below. If you don't want to purchase it and you just want to follow along, just a warning, it's going to be a full long video to get through the full pattern because I'm going to go nice and slow. I'm going to show people how to read the pattern, give them tips and tricks. Also, just a note, it's advisable if you maybe have already crocheted before and know how to do a single crochet stitch and maybe have crocheted in the round. So I'm not going to teach you from scratch how to crochet, but we'll go over tips and tricks and how to do the decreases and little things like that together here in this video. Okay, also just wanted to point out that I'm a lefty, so I'll crochet in one direction, but if you're right, you just go in the other direction around. Okay, so for this pattern, you will need worsted weight yarn of any color that you want to make your doll. This doll here, he was made using Bernat Super Value, and I used the dark mauve for him. And a worsted weight yarn just means that it's a size 4. Okay, so you'll see that on your yarn labels there when you're looking to buy it, a size 4. So for this video though, just because I want the stitches to show up a little nicer on camera, a little more clear, I don't use a dark yarn usually to show you that. I'm going to use a lighter purple, and this one is called Lavender, and it's also made by Bernat Super Value. I do enjoy working with this worsted weight yarn because it has a lot of kind of really nice colors that I enjoy working with. And in the past, my previous pattern here for the doll, I actually made him in green, and I worked using the Bernat Super Value, so the same brand, but he was made with the forest green color in this brand of yarn. So I used forest green for this guy here. And then for the coat, for this one, and I used it for the green pattern as well, the green doll I made, I used clay as the color for both of those dolls. So for this guy and for the other guy, I've made it in gray. It looks kind of nice, so whatever beige you can choose, mix it up. So you will need, to make the full doll, you're going to stick with using a 4mm crochet hook. And then when you switch over to making the coat, that's going to be worked using a 5mm crochet hook. Okay, so the doll, the full thing is made with a 4, and the coat is made with a 5. You also need, for this tutorial, a stitch marker, a yarn needle. I like to use 18mm safety eyes, and I got these at a store called Lens Mills here in Canada. That's the store I purchased them from. But you can get them online, I believe, and I do have on my website, I list products that I like to use and then the stores that I buy them from. I have listed for some safety eyes a lady on Etsy here in Canada that sells them, and she has nice products. These ones here that I get are kind of cheapy ones. I find they're kind of finicky to put on sometimes, so the other lady I order from, she has nice ones with nicer backings. And then optional, let's talk about the stuffing here first. So I like to buy stuffing for the doll, and I always look for stuffing that indicates that it's washable and mold resistant or whatever. That usually has a whole bunch of stuff printed on the label for the stuffing, but I like to buy washable just in case I ever need to wash the doll, because these are usually made for kids and I don't know, they don't usually stay clean for too long, so I do like to throw them in. And at the end of this pattern I give you washing instructions as well for the doll. And then what else do we need? Oh, optional. At the end, I like to make kind of this little peach fuzzy kind of effect with the hair. Just it gives it to the doll kind of a softer look, I find. So to do that, I use a hard bristle brush. You can use like a wire brush or anything that's hard, and you just vigorously comb it. And then I like to add a little shading into the ears, and I do that by using blush and just a paintbrush or any type of little brush just to apply it with. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that at the end once the doll is all finished. So that's it. If you want to jump ahead to see just how to make the ears or the coat or how to attach the eyes or shape the face, I'll have timestamps in the description down below that you can just click and it will take you directly to that part of the video. So we're going to grab up our pattern. If you're going to go and grab that up, snap it up and print it out, and we'll get started here. So we're going to follow along exactly as the pattern states, and I've got it laid out. Fairly easy to follow along with. So the first step, we start at the head and then work our way down the body, but first it says to cut 5 pieces of yarn. So whatever color you're using for the doll, you're going to cut 5 long pieces for the doll, about 20 inches. Okay, so we'll cut those and we're going to set those aside. This is for the shaping of the face when we get to it, and we're still going to be working from our ball of yarn when we get to that point. So we just want to pre-cut these. If you forget, if you've purchased the pattern and you skipped over that part for reading, no worries, you just cut the ends from the other end of the ball of yarn that you're working from. And I forgot to mention, this doll uses only, I would say, about 300 yards of yarn, not much more than that, probably a little less. So this skein of yarn here is 426 yards, and you could probably make like 4 or 5 dolls from it. So maybe only 100 and something yards per doll. Okay, so I've got 5 of nice long yarn. I'm just going to set that aside for now. Okay, so I've done that. So this pattern begins at the top of the doll's head using your worsted weight yarn. So that's our size 4 here. Okay, and your 4mm crochet hook. So to start, we're going to begin with a magic ring. And I do have a slow-mo video on how to create a magic ring, and I'll put a link to that down below, and I'll try to put a little iCard up here in the top that you can just click on and go watch that as well. So there's an alternate method to the magic ring where you chain 2, and then in the second chain from the hook is where you'll do your 6 single crochet into it. But for this video, I'm going to do it with the magic ring. So I wrap it here, I just pinch it, wrap it over top, bring it up through that pinch, and put it in behind. And I'm going to take my crochet hook under that first, grab the second, and as I pull up, I give a little twist. Okay, so it's twisted there, and then I'm going to grab that working yarn and pull it through my loop that I just created. And I'm going to pull it off my fingers, and this is my magic ring that I work into. You always work over both of these pieces of yarn. Okay, so I just stick my fingers in there or something just to hold it while I work. And the pattern calls for putting 6 single crochet into the magic ring. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this is why I like to work with the magic ring for making dolls and amigurumi, is because I like to close it up nice and tight. So I'll pull that. Don't pull it too tight that you break your yarn. And now we're going to put, the pattern calls for round 2 is 2 single crochet in each stitch around. Okay, so we're going to go into that first stitch right there. Okay, and I like to work over this little tail here from the middle where I pulled. I like to just throw that over top of my hook and just keep weaving it in as I work that first round. You don't have to do that. That's just so I don't have to do it at the end. You can weave it in at the end if you'd like. So there I've done my first single crochet. Really important throughout, because we're working in continuous rounds, is to put that stitch marker right there in that first single crochet of every round. So you always take it out and put it back in, because the width of it will adjust while making the doll, so lining it up doesn't work. Okay, so the pattern was 2 single crochet in each stitch. So I'm going to go back in to that same stitch and put another one. This is an increase. Okay, I'm going to do that for each one around. So I'm going to jump on over to that next stitch and I'm going to put 2 in there. Okay, and I'm working over top of that tail yarn. So if you're not, then don't worry about it. So 1 and then 2. So that's, now I've got 4 stitches. I'm going to jump on over to the next stitch and put 2 in there. So this is increasing all the way around. Okay, another 2 in the next stitch. Okay, so now I have 8 stitches. Going on over to the next stitch, I'm going to put 2 in there for another increase. So 1 and 2. Now I have 10. Here's where I will just stop and I snip that tail. So that's all weaved in, and then in my last one right here, I'm going to put 2 single crochet, like so. And then at the end of where it's written as round 2, you'll see in brackets the number 12. What that means is that you need to have right now at the end of round 2, 12 stitches. So to give it a double count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. When I count the stitches, what I'm looking at is, here we go, these V shapes. So this is the top of your stitch right here, right? Kind of creates this pretty little V. So I'm counting those V's when I'm counting around to get my count for the row. So I've got 12 there. I'm good to go on to round 3. So round 3 says 2 single crochet in the next stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next. So repeat that from between the stars, because those are in asterisks, those instructions, all the way around. So what that looks like is I'm going to put 2 stitches in this first one, so that's an increase, and then in the next I'm only going to put 1. So that's not an increase, that's just a normal crocheting in the stitch. So it'll go increase, 1, increase, 1, increase, 1, increase, 1, increase, 1, increase, 1, all the way around, just like that. Okay, so we're going to pop out that stitch marker, put our first stitch in for the round, and then throw that stitch marker right back in so we don't lose track of the beginning of the round. So the pattern was 2 in the first, so that was 1. I'm going to go back in and put another single crochet in there for an increase. And then in the next, I'm just going to do 1 stitch. And then I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So 2 in this stitch, so there's 1, going back in for 2. The next one just has 1, so just 1 right there. The next one will have 2, so 1. I'm going to go back in for an increase. There's 2. The next stitch just has 1 stitch, 1. The next will have 2, so 1, going back into the same stitch for 2. And then the next one will have 1. The next one has 2, so 1, going back in the same stitch for 2. The next stitch just has 1. The next stitch will have 2, so 1, going back in for 2. And then the last one has 1, so it should always end up, your last one should end up however your repeat ended up. So if it's 2 and then 1 in the next, you should always end up with 2 just before and then 1 in that last stitch. Now in the brackets for round 3 is the number 18, so we should have 18 stitches all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Always, 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 I say double count after you've finished a round, because it will save you time if you have not got the correct amount of stitches and pulling it out, and it's hard when you pull out at these continuous rounds and stuff, so always, always, always give it a double count. Round 4. We're going on here now. The next one here between the stars, our pattern for this round is 2 single crochet in the next stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So what that will look like is 2 in this one and then 1, 1. 2, 1, 1. 2, 1, 1. 2, 1, 1. And we keep doing that all the way around. So take out your stitch marker, put that first stitch in and then replace it. And I do have a video that when you're working in continuous rounds, a way you can use contrasting yarn when you're working in continuous round, as you're instead of putting this in and out at the beginning of every round, I just show you the technique for flip-flopping that yarn back and forth. It's a little bit quicker, but just for the purpose of this video and remembering to put that stitch marker in and out, I am using that for this one. But I'll put a link to that cool video up in the top here in the little iCard, as well in the description down below. Okay, so we did 1, now we're going to go back in to put 2. So that's our increase. And then we're going to go 1, 1. So there's 1 in the next, 1 in the next. Okay, we're going to repeat that now. So we're going to go 2 in the next. So there's 1, going back in for 2. And then 1 in the next 2. So there's 1 in the next, 1 in the next. Okay, so 2 in the next, so 1, going back in the same one for 2, and then 1, 1. So 1 in the next, 1 in the next. 2 in the next, there's 1, going back in for 2, 1 in the next, 1 in the next. 2 in the next, so there's 1, going back in for 2, 1 in the next, 1 in the next. The next one has 2, so 1, going back in for 2, 1 in the next, 1 in the next. Now at the end of this round, round 4, it says you should have 24 stitches. Give that a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yay! All right, moving on to round 5. So the repeat for this one is 2 single crochet in the next, and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So what that's going to look like is 2, 1, 1, 1. 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. Except I'm going to count it as we go along so I don't lose track. I'm going to count it as 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, so that I don't lose track of how many stitches I put the 1 into. So remove that marker, and put in your first stitch. So if you do ever split yarn like that, I like to just take that out because split yarn just kind of will drive me crazy. So pop that stitch marker back in there. So this one has 2, so I'm going back in for my increase, and then I'm going to put 1 in the next 3 stitches. So I'm just going to count to 3. So 1, 2, 3. All of those just had 1 stitch in it. So now we're going to repeat that. The next stitch here has 2 in it, so we're going to go 1, go back in for 2, and then we're going to put 1 in the next 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to do an increase. So that's 2 in that one, so there's 1, 2 for an increase. Then we're going to go 1 into the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Increase. So we're going to go 1, go back in for our increase, and then 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to increase. So 1, go back in for another for an increase, and then 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, 3. This one's an increase. We're going to go 1, go back in for our increase, then 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now we should have a stitch count of 30. So give that a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. All right, moving on to round 6. So this one is a little bit different, so we're mixing it up now. So read those directions carefully. We're going to go 2 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then 1 single crochet in the next 12. So what that'll look like is 2, 2, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we'll repeat that. Alrighty, so take that stitch marker out, go in for the first, and replace your stitch marker. So it's 2 in that one, so we're going to do 2. So 1, 2, and then another increase. So 1, 2, and then a third increase. So 1, 2. So that's 3 increases we just did right there. Now we're going to do 1 in the next 12. So I'm going to count up to 12 as I go, putting 1 in each stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now I'm going to do 3 increases. So I'm going to go increase, increase, increase. So 2 in all of those stitches. So there's 1, going back in for 2. That's our first increase. Go 1, back in for 2. That's our second increase. 1, go back in for 2. That's our third increase. Now we're going to do 1 in the next 12. I'm going to count to 12, putting 1 in each stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Our stitch count here should be 36, so give it a double count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Perfect. So what we're doing here is we're kind of creating these curvatures here, kind of making it an oval shape at this point. So these are going to be the little cheeks. Okay, so that's why it was a little bit different to follow. So now in the pattern it says that this next round, to read it carefully, and I always put that when there's a lot of steps that you have to do, just to kind of put it in your mind that, oh, I need to really read this through. Okay, so the first step, we'll just do it as we read. So I'm going to take the stitch marker out. So the first one is 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to put my first one in. There's 1. I'm going to replace my stitch marker. So 1 in the next 2, so that was 1. I'm going to go 1 in the next one. Okay, so I've got 2 stitches there, 1 in each stitch. And now it says 2 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Okay, so that's 2 increases. So I'm going to go increase, so there's 1, going back in for 1 increase, 1, go back in for a second increase. And now it says 1 single crochet in the next 16 stitches. So we're going to put 1 in each, counting up to 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Okay, so now we're going to do 2 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So that's 2 increases. And sometimes when my work gets almost like the stitches are too close together, see how these guys seem like they're close together? I just give it a little stretch like that, and then I can see the next stitch. So when you see me doing that, that's all I'm doing, is I'm just trying to find that next stitch, because sometimes when you're increasing, they kind of get close together. All right, so 2 increases, so I'm going to go 1, go back in for 1 increase. I'm going to go another increase, so there's 1, go back in for my second increase. And now it says 1 single crochet in the next 14 stitches. So really it'll be 16 and 16, but we started with those 2 singulars right there, and now 14 plus those 2 makes the 16, so it's actually evenly spaced apart, those kind of cheeks there. That's why it does that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So now our stitch count is 40. So make sure that you give this a double count. This one's really important because we're going to build onto this. This is as the highest count we're going to go for the head. So we want to make sure that we actually have 40. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Yes! All right. Great job, guys. Now, for rounds 8 to 12, we're just going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around, so that's 40. So you just go along putting 1 in each, counting all the way up to 40. And we're going to do that for a total of 5 rounds. Just remember to replace your stitch marker at the beginning of each round for the next 5 rounds. So I'm going to leave that to you guys and come back and meet back up with me in the next part here once you have those 5 rounds, okay? So 1 in each stitch all the way around for 5 rounds, and then we'll meet back up. Okay, we're back. So you should have something that looks like a little cup, the top of his head there. So we've got rounds 1 to 12 done. So we've done our 5 rounds there of 40 stitches, and hopefully your stitch count is still at 40. So now we're moving on to round 13 in the pattern, and again I have a note here in the pattern that says to read it carefully. So that means there's a lot of steps, so we'll go through those steps together here. So remove your stitch marker, and the first one says 1 single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to do 1 and then replace my stitch marker. There we go. So that was 1 into the next 2. So I'm going to do 1 in the next stitch. So that's 1, 1. And then it says single crochet 2 together. Single crochet 2 together. So that's 2 decreases. So when it says SC2 TOG, that means single crochet 2 together. And if you're ever wondering what an abbreviation means, I have that on the very first page, all the abbreviations and what they mean. So when I do decreases, or the single crochet 2 together, for the patterns where I make the amigurumi or the dolls, I always do what's called an invisible decrease. So to do that, it's easy. So you're still stitching 2 stitches together. I'm only going to work into the front loops here. So if you take a look at my stitches, the top of the rows here, they have 2 V's. So this one here, this front, this is what's called the front loop, and then this one here at the back of your work is the back loop. So when you're decreasing, you're only going to be working into these front loops, and that'll just help kind of create a nicer flow rather than having 2 bunches like that. It'll just have a nice flow of just one line up there. Kind of, you don't see it as much, so that's why we do that. So we're going to do single crochet 2 together, or what's also called a decrease. Sometimes you'll see it written as DEC. So I'm going into that first loop only. I'm grabbing up a loop, and notice I don't pull it up really high onto my hook. Okay, I'm just scooching it down there. I'm staying real close to where I just worked into. Okay, I don't pull it up because I want my tension to be the same as how I normally work, but I want it to be close to the work, if that makes sense. So I'm not pulling up on it. I'm just scooching right over into the next front loop of the next stitch there. I'm going to draw up another loop. And then this is where I'll turn my hook up to the top of my work, grab my yarn, and pull it through. So what I've done there is I've now stitched those 2 stitches together as 1 stitch. Okay, you can see there how it's kind of has a nice kind of a flatter look to it. So that's the invisible decrease. So we got to do that one more time. In the pattern it calls for another one right beside it. So we're going to go right on over here to that next stitch. Okay, I'm going to grab my yarn, but I'm not pulling it up. I'm just staying nice and close to my work. And then I'm going to move right on over there to that next stitch and grab the next front loop, grab my working yarn and pull it through. Now I'm going to move my hook to the top of my work and pull through all 3 of those stitches. Okay, so we've just done decrease, decrease. So now the next part of it says 1 single crochet in the next 16 stitches. So we're just going to put 1 in each, counting up to 16 as we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Okay, and now it says to do single crochet 2 together and then single crochet 2 together again. So decrease, decrease. So we're going to do that again. So we're just going into that front loop there of the next stitch, pulling up our yarn, but staying close to the stitch, going right on over to the next and grabbing it, and then working up onto the top of our work, pulling through all three. We're going to repeat that again for another decrease, going into the front loop, grabbing your yarn, staying close, scooching right on over there to the next front loop of the next stitch, grabbing the yarn, pulling through all three. Okay, now it says 1 single crochet in the next 14 stitches. So we're going to do 1 in each, counting up to 14. So just want to point out here, when you get to this point where you've just done your single crochets together, here, let me just pull that out. So see how we've worked the 2 stitches here together? This one here, when you start crocheting, you could think that this one here is potentially the next stitch, but it's not. It's just kind of pulled so that it kind of comes into this one stitch. So be wary of that. The next stitch you're going to work is kind of a bit of a stretch over. So when I work those next ones over from the decreases that we just did, I like to keep my work nice and close to my work for this one. So I'm going to pull up. My yarn splitting. I'm going to stay close. I'm not going to really pull up on that yarn and give me a lot of room, but I'm going to pull up just enough to pull through. And then that'll bring that stitch closer to where we are right there. So that was 1 and we need to get to 14. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay, so our stitch count after this round is 36. So give that a double count. Make sure you've got your 36. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Yes. Okay, round 14. Okay, we're going to single crochet 2 together 3 times. So that'll be decrease, 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 and then 1 single crochet in the next 12 stitches. So that'll just be 1 in each, counting all the way up to 12. And then we're going to repeat that for a second time. So let's do it here together the first time. So pull out your stitch marker, and the first thing we begin with is a decrease, because it goes decrease, decrease, decrease. So we're going to, right into this first one, we're going to go into that front loop, go on over to the next front loop, pull it up. And now we're working those 2 stitches together as 1 for a decrease, and replacing our stitch marker, don't forget, at the beginning of the round. Okay, so that was 1 decrease. We need to do 3 of them. So the next one, going into that front loop, pulling up, going on over to the next, pulling up and pulling through all 3 for our second decrease. Now we're going to go right on over to the next, staying nice and close, over to the next front loop. We have 3 on the hook, and we're going to pull through all 3 for our third decrease. Now it says 1 single crochet in the next 12 stitches. Being sure to skip on over to that next stitch is a tiny bit of a stretch. We're going to put 1 and counting up to 12, 1 in each. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, whoopsie, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now we're going to repeat that. So we're going to go back to decrease, 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 and then 1 in the next 12. So we start with our first decrease here, going into the front loop, going on over to the next, okay, pulling through all 3. So that's 1 decrease. We're going to go for our second decrease, working into the front loops. Go, there's a second decrease, and one more for a third decrease right there, and then one in the next 12. So counting up to 12, putting one in each. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Nice. So our stitch count now should be 30. So give that a double count. Make sure you've got 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 30. Woo! All right. Oh, I twisted my yarn when I was counting. Okay. So round 15 is single crochet 2 together, so that's a decrease, and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and repeat from between the asterisks around. Ooh, that's hard to say. So it'll look like this. Decrease, so these two will come together as one, and then 1, 2, 3. Decrease, 1, 2, 3. Decrease, 1, 2, 3, all the way around. Okay, so replace that stitch marker or take it out. So we're going to begin with a decrease. So working into the front loops of those 2 stitches and bringing them together as one. Replace your stitch marker. And then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to repeat that. So decrease, working into the next 2 front loops, pulling them together as 1 stitch, and then 1, 2, 3. Decrease, and then 1, 2, 3. Decrease, 1, 2, 3. Decrease, 1, 2, 3. Decrease, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now our stitch count is down to 24. So give that a double count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yes. Okay. Round 16, we're going to do single crochet 2 together and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, repeating from between the asterisks all the way around. So it'll go decrease. So we're going to bring those 2 together. So decrease and then 1, 2. Decrease, 1, 2. Decrease, 1, 2. All the way around. Okay, so pop out that stitch marker. The first one here is going to be a decrease. So working into those front loops, the first 2, and drawing them together to decrease them into 1 stitch. Replacing our stitch marker, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. Then we'll do a decrease. And then 1 and 2. Decrease. 1 and 2. Decrease, 1 and 2. Decrease, 1, oops, 1 and 2. Decrease, and then 1 and 2. Okay, so our stitch count here should now be down to 18. So give it a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yes. Okay, now the pattern says pause. Do not fasten off. Just pull up a bit of slack from that last stitch for now. So all that means is I'm just going to pull up on this loop and set it down. I'm just going to leave it like that for now so it's still connected here to my ball of yarn. Okay. Now, so it says from here we'll eventually continue on to make the body, but first we need to add the safety eyes, put some stuffing into the head, and do a little face shaping. So for adding the safety eyes, it says your safety eyes will consist of 2 pieces. So I'm going to grab mine up here. These are what mine look like. And I've got 18 millimeter safety eyes. You can use any size you want. If you don't like the big-eyed effect, you can go smaller. So this is 18 millimeters is what I'm using. And it says that the safety eyes will have 2 pieces. They consist of the eye with the straight threaded rod on the back here, and the washer. So this is the washer. The washers can be either flat or rounded. So these ones that I have are rounded. I have other ones here. And this is what another washer might look like, just nice and flat. Okay, so they can either be plastic or metal. So you'll find that there's different types of safety eyes out there. Doesn't matter. The important part is that flat meets flat when you're putting them on. So if I put them in, when I put my safety backing on, like this, so this flat part right here meets the flat part of the washer, like that, so that when they connected there, they're nice and tight to the fabric and there's no movement. So if I were to put them on this way, the fabric could probably move back and forth, like the eye could move back and forth through the fabric and it might pop out and look strange. So you always want to make it so that flat meets flat when you're applying the safety eyes. Okay, so that was just a note there in the pattern for you guys. And then it says when, just a note that the head is kind of like an oval shape here. So these parts that poke out are the cheeks. So you want to make the face in between the cheeks here in this flat part, okay, when you're putting the eyes on. So we place the eyes 9 rows down from the top of the head and leave a 1-inch space between the inner parts of the eyes. So what you do is you're first going to stick the eyes in and see if you've got them spaced out properly, and you can move them around. Don't attach them until you've got them exactly where you want them. So in the pattern here, it guides you to do it 9 rows down, and of course you can adjust this to your liking. So I always count here from the top. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm going to stick my eye somewhere around in here. So that's the 9th row down. So I'll poke that in for now and leave it. Okay. So that I can line up the other eye and see if I've got them spaced properly. And already it looks like I've got it maybe too far over here in the middle. So I'll probably have to move that over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're lining up on the same row here. Okay, so, and then it says in the pattern that you want the inner parts of the eye to be about 1 inch apart. So right now I've got them a little close. So I can tell here just by looking at it that maybe I want to move this first eye I put in just over towards the outside of the head. I'm going to pull it out, pop it back in. Woo! Oh my goodness, that was crazy. Okay, so those are on the same. We're going to check and make sure, are they 1 inch apart? So that is 1 inch apart from the innermost part of the eye there. You can see that. Okay. And another trick that you can use is you can pick a row. So like say maybe this row right here and count how many stitches in it kind of comes from the side. So 1, 2, 3, 4 to that outside. Is this the same? So I'm going to follow that along. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, looks about. Once you've got it lined up the way that you want, that's when you'll turn it here a little bit inside out. Okay. And now is when you want to put the washers on. So remember, flat meets flat. So I'm going to put it on this way right here, and you're going to put it on until you hear that clicking sound. And sometimes I have a little bit of trouble. So I get some pliers or something that I can use to force that on, and it's just usually just these cheap ones that I buy from that Lens Mill stores. The ones that I order online from the Etsy lady are better quality, and they snap on a little easier. So I'm going to snap these on and then meet back up with you. Yeesh, the struggle was real with that one, guys. I had to actually use some of whatever these things are called to put those on. I found them in my husband's toolbox. So that was fun, but maybe I'm just a weakling, I don't know, but I do find those particular safety eyes harder than most to put on. Okay, so now that we have them all attached, we're going to move on to a little bit of face shaping. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I love this part. Okay, so remember those little pieces of yarn we set aside. If you didn't cut these, that's okay. Just pull from the other end of the ball of yarn you're using. So we're going to take one right now. We'll set the rest aside. Okay, and we're going to put it onto a blunt yarn needle. And we're going to begin here. The pattern walks you through it. And I've tried to make all my patterns the same way. I write them the same way. I use the same abbreviations. I always write them exactly the same. So if you've read one of my patterns, you can read all of my patterns. And I also like to put lots of pictures as I go along and I make it. And I put step-by-step instructions. So I'm trying to do that with absolutely all of my patterns. So for anything 2020 here and further, that's 100% way I'm going to be writing all of my patterns. So you can either follow along with photo tutorials when you purchase the pattern, or with a video if I've made one for you. So here it says for shaping the face, we're going to begin with just kind of contouring the eyes in a bit, like this. Okay. So to do that, you're going to use a single thickness of yarn. So I've just threaded it on here and just single thickness so you don't double it over. Okay, so insert the needle into the opening at the bottom of the head. So that's this right here. So this is the opening at the bottom of the head. And then come out at the bottom inner corner of one eye. Doesn't matter which eye. So here is my eye. So the bottom inner corner is going to be just right there at the bottom. So I'm going to come out right there. Okay, so I'm going to pull up, leave a tail, and don't mind these tails here that are still attached to the ball of yarn. Don't get those confused in, okay? Now we're going to insert the needle 2 stitches over, so there's 1, 2, to the outer corner of the eye and come out through the bottom opening of the head. And then it says to repeat those steps for the second eye. So I'm going to go up through the bottom opening, come out at that inner corner of the other eye. I'm going to come out the same row that I came out for the other one. And I'm going to go 2 stitches over to the outside corner and come down through the bottom. Okay? Now it says to pull the 2 ends at the bottom opening of the head to create the contour. So I'm going to pull them. So here's the first end, and my other end is still attached to my yarn needle. So I'm going to pull. And as you can see there, it just pulled those. See, when I pull it, it's pulling that in to kind of create a contour. And then you're going to tie those ends into a double knot and snip the ends. So that's easy peasy. Tie, and then in a double knot. I might even do a square knot. Here we go. And then I'll just snip those ends. So there's step 1 for the face. Complete. We've contoured those eyes. Yay! That looks cute. Okay, so now we're going to go on to shaping the nose. And for this part, I kind of like to mark it out before I actually do it. So I'm going to mark it out using some extra yarn needles that I have here. Okay, so it says, using the pins or needles, so I've got needles here, we're going to place 1 marker horizontally through the 3 stitches in between the eyes, 1 row down from the nose. In between the eyes and 1 row down from the eyes. So horizontally, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to go 1 row down. So here's where the eye ends. I'm going to go 1 row down, and there's 3 stitches right here in between the eyes. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So I've gone under those 3 stitches right in between the eyes. And then it says to place 2 markers on a vertical slant so that they crisscross 2 rows above the horizontal marker. So here's 1, 2. So they're going to crisscross. So I'm going to go in this one here where I came out. I'm going to go on a vertical slant. So here's 1, 2. So they come out right there. And I'm going to place my other marker on the other side doing that same thing. So I'm going to go in here and it's going to come out crisscrossing right there like that. Okay. So then using a single thickness of yarn, so this is that extra yarn that we had left over, okay, we're going to insert the needle into the opening at the bottom of the head and come out 1 stitch away from where the markers crisscross. So that'll be kind of close to your eye because they crisscross. So I'm going to come out right there close to my eye, and I'm 1 stitch away from where they crisscross right there. Can you see that? Okay. So I'm going to pull out, I'm going to leave a tail. Then it says to insert the needle 1 stitch closer to where the markers crisscross and come out 2 stitches over. So here's where my markers crisscross. And I'm going to come out right on the other side of where they crisscross, and that's 2 stitches over. Okay, So I'm going to pull that through. Now it says to insert the needle 1 stitch down. So here's where I am. I'm going to go 1 stitch down, okay, and 3 stitches over going in the other direction. So I'm going to go through 3 stitches there. Okay, I'm going to pull it out. Pull it through, and I'm working underneath those vertical. Okay, and now it says to repeat those steps. So I'm going to go back up here to the top of the nose and go through the 2, just like I did in the first step. And I'm going to go 1 row down and over 3 stitches. And it says you can remove these vertical markers. So I'm going to throw those aside. Now it says to go through where your horizontal stitch marker is, and you can take that out as you go through. Like so. Okay. We'll throw that one aside and pull this through. Now it says pull the yarn, pull on it. You can start to see the contour. So I'm going to pull that tail. You can see how it's pulled that in there to create the nose. Now we're going to insert the needle 1 row down and come out diagonally 1 row above on the other side of the nose. So I'm going to go 1 row down. So here's where I am. I'm going 1 row down. I'm going to come out diagonally on the other side of the nose. So that'll be your 3 stitches over, and I'm lined up where this thread is. That's where I'm coming out, but I'm coming out diagonally. Okay, and then I'll pull. And see, it's kind of pulled in on that side of the nose. And now we're going to repeat that. We're going to go 1 row down and come out diagonally. Okay, so now we have kind of this cute little button nose. So now it says if you're happy with it, you can just come out through the bottom and tie these ends together. If you want to add any more little stitches, like if you think, oh, well, I want to pull maybe some in there, you can go up in through the middle and come out. You can keep adding stitches. That's the fun part about shaping the face. But I'm going to leave it as is. I'm going to poke my guide down in through, come out through that bottom opening, and then I'll just lightly tie these ends together here, making sure I've got the contour that I want. Okay, and then I'll snip those ends off. Okay, so now we have the nose. Pretty cool, right? Looking cute, looking cute. Now it's on to the next page. So we're going to define some eyebrows. So I'm grabbing another piece of that extra yarn that we set aside there and threading it onto my yarn needle. Okay. So it says here for defining the eyebrows is first we're going to insert the needle into the opening of the bottom of the head and come out 1 stitch over from the top of one of the eyes towards the nose. And it gives you a picture there too, if you're referring to the, so 1 stitch over. So here's my eye. I've got 1 stitch over from the top of the eye, and I'm coming in closer to where the nose is. So kind of going up to the top of that bridge of the nose there. Okay. I'm going to pull and I'm going to leave a tail out here at the bottom. Okay, and my next step is to insert the needle 2 rows above where you just worked. So here's where I just worked. So I'm going to go 2 rows above, and I'm going to come back out down below 2 rows, to that other stitch. So the yarn will lay over top of the doll. Okay, so here you can see it's laying over top of the doll. So that's what we want. And we're going to continue doing that. So it says to repeat those steps, going 2 rows above the eye and coming back out. And we're going to work along the eye. So keep moving towards the outer part of the eye. Oh, shucks. It fell off my needle. There we go. And you can go in each stitch a couple times, or if you want thick full eyebrows, it all depends on what you want it to look like there for fullness. You can go over it just once, you can go over it twice. Okay, I like to go over a couple times, just keeping the yarn here where I'm winding around just nice and close together. Okay, so then it says when you get to the outer part of the eye, so here I'm made it here to the outside of the eye, is to just to go, we've been going over 2 rows, now we're just going to decrease that down to just winding it around 1 row. Okay, and it says to do that for a couple stitches out from the eye, and I like to just work this here for a couple of stitches, but I like to do it nice and thick, so I'll go over it a few times for each thing. And then that makes that outer part of the eyebrow thinner, so it goes kind of thick to thin. And then once you've defined the eyebrow just the way you want it, you're going to pull that through. So I'm just going to go up, come out at the bottom. Okay, so now you've got this cute little eyebrow going on. Okay, so repeat those steps for the other eyebrow, and then we'll meet back up. Okay, so now we've got both of the eyebrows on, and now in the pattern it says to go on to adding the mouth. So again, with that little piece of yarn here that we cut at the beginning, I've got it threaded onto my yarn needle, so it's going to be a single thickness. And the instructions for this one say to insert the needle into the opening at the bottom of the head and come out 1 row down from the nose in line with the inside corner of one eye. So here's my inside corner of my eye, and here's where my nose ends. So I'm going to come out 1 row down to that inside corner right about there. Okay. Pull over, leave a tail. There we go. Now it says to insert needle 3 stitches over on the other side of the nose and come out through the bottom. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to be lining up here with the inner side of the other eye. So that's about 1, 2, 3 on that 4th stitch there. So I've skipped 3 in between. And I'm going to come out. Then make sure you like it. Is that the size mouth that you would like? And then I like to kind of repeat that, just going up through the exact same spot I just came out and going back down for 1 more time. Okay. So that's there, the width of my mouth. And you can adjust that if you want to make it a longer mouth or shorter, or you don't want to add the mouth at all, or you want to do something different, like how you did the eyebrows, weaving it all around. Okay, so then we're going to tie those ends and snip them. And that completes the face shaping. So here's what we've got. Pretty cute, right? Now we're going to go on to making the body. So we're going to continue on from where we were, and it's still connected here to the ball of yarn. So we're going to take our crochet hook. We're back to using the 4.0mm crochet hook. So we'll just insert that and bring it back in. So round 17, so we're carrying on here. So this is the first round of the body. We're going to do the neck, so we're still drawing it in a little bit closer. So it's another decrease. We're going to decrease and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch and repeat that all the way around. So the first one here is going to be a decrease. So it'll be decrease 1, decrease 1, all the way around. So remove your stitch marker. And this first one, we're just working in the front loops there, drawing that together to make 1 stitch as a decrease and replacing our stitch marker. Okay, and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. And then we're going to decrease for the next, so going into those 2 front loops and pulling it together as 1. And then 1 single crochet in the next. Then we're going to do a decrease here, and then 1 single crochet in the next. Kind of got my blinds closed, but the sun's really shining in, so sorry about that glare for now, guys. It won't last for long here, I'm sure. So we're decreasing, and then 1 in the next, and then decrease, and then 1 in the next, and then decrease, and 1 in the last, right there. So now your stitch count, you should be down to 12. So make sure you've got 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes. Round 18. Now we're going to be building back up. So we're going to be increasing instead of decreasing. We're going to build that kind of width for the body. Okay. So round 18, we're doing 2 single crochet in the next and then 1 single crochet in the next. So it'll go 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 all the way around. Remember, we're increasing this round. So remove your stitch marker, put your first stitch in and replace your marker. We're going to increase, so we're going to go back into that stitch for another one, and then just 1 in the next stitch. Then we're going to increase, so 1, go back in for an increase, go, and then just 1 in the next. And then we're going to increase, so 1, go back in for 2, and then 1 in the next, 2 in the next, so 1, go back in for 2, and then 1 in the next. Then we're going to go 2 in the next, so 1, back in for 2, and then 1 in the next, 2 in the next, so 1, going back in for 2, and then 1 in that last stitch there. Okay, so our stitch count should be 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yes. Round 19. The repeat for this round is going to be 2 and then 1 in the next 2 stitches. So an increase and then 1, 2. So 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, all the way around. So take out that stitch marker. We're going to put in our first stitch here and then replace it. Going back in for an increase. So it's 2 in that one, and then 1 in the next, 1 in the next, 2 in the next, 1, 2, 1 in the next, 1 in the next, 2 in the next, 2, 1 in the next, 1, 1, 2 in the next, 1, 2, 1 in the next, 1, and 1 in the next, 1, 2 in the next, 1, 2, 1 in the next, 1, 1, 2 in the next, 1, go back in for 2, 1 in the next, and 1 in the last. Bam! Now you should have 24. So give that a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yay! Round 20. We're going to do 2 single crochet in the next, 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So that will look like 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. And on those 1, 2, 3s, we're just putting 1 stitch in all of those. So take out that stitch marker. We're going to put our first stitch in and replace it. I got a wonky situation going on. What is happening? Okie dokie. So that was 1. We're going to do 2 into that one for our first increase. And then 1, 2, 3. So 1 in each of these as we count to 3. So 1, 2, 3. 2 in the next. So 1, back in for 2, and then 1, 2, 3. 1 in each as we're counting to 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 in the next. 1, 2, and then 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, 3. I feel like the doll is looking at me now. 2 in the next. 1, 2, and then 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. 2 in the next. 1, 2, 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. 2 in the next. 1, 2, and then 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, and that brings us to the end of the round, and we should have 30 stitches. So give it a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Yes! All right, round 21, we're going to do 2 single crochet in the next, 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So it'll go 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, putting 1 in each as we count to 4. So replace your stitch marker. We're going to go 1, pop that back in, go back into that same stitch for an increase, and then we're going to count to 4, putting 1 in each as we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2 in the next. 1, 2, 1 in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 in the next. 1, going back in for 2, and then 1 in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2 in the next. 1, and then 2, and then 1 in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2 in the next. 1, 2, 1 in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 2 in the next, 1, 2, 1 in the next 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That brings us to the end of the round, and we should have 36. So give that a double count. Moving on to round 22. And for round 22, all we're doing is putting one single crochet in each stitch around. So we will have a stitch count of 36. So as you go around, putting one in each, just count up to 36. So there's 1, and I replace my stitch marker. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we've done round 22. We're moving on to round 23. And for this round, you're going to do 2 single crochet in the next, 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches. So that'll be 2, and then we'll count up to 5, putting 1 in each. So there's 1 in the first. We're going to replace our stitch marker. We're going to go back in for 2. Then we're going to count to 5, putting 1 in each as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 2 in the next. 1, 2, and then 1 in the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 in the next. 1, going back in for 2. 1 in the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 in the next, or 2 in the next, sorry, 1, go back in for 2, and then 1 in the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 2 in the next, 1, 2, and then 1 in the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 2 in the next, 1, go back in for 2, 1 in the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And your stitch count here should be at 42, so give that a count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we've got to the highest count we're going to do for the body. So rounds 24 to 27 is 1 single crochet in each stitch around for a total of 4 rounds. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys do that. So just putting 1 stitch around, you should have a stitch count of 42 for every round, and remember to replace your marker at the beginning of each round, and then we'll meet back after you've completed 4 rounds of 42. Okay, so now you've completed those 4 rounds. You should have something that looks like this, and you've made up until round 27. So round 28 is we're going to start decreasing and bringing that body in. Okay, so we're going to do single crochet, 2 together, 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches. So that's a decrease, and then 1 stitch in the next 5. So it'll go decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So take out your stitch marker. We're going to do our first decrease. Remember, going into those front loops, staying as tight as you can without making your tension too tight. We've done our first decrease. We're going to replace our stitch marker, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches. So counting to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to repeat that all the way around. So we're back to our decrease, and then 1 in the next 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then decrease, and then 1 in the next 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then decrease, and then 1 in the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then decrease. Oopsie. And then 1 in the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Decrease. And then 1 in the last 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And for the end of that round, you should end up with 36 stitches. Give that a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 36. All right, round 29, we're going to single crochet 2 together. So that's our decrease. 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So take out your marker. We're going to do our first decrease right there, and then we're going to replace that marker. And then 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So counting to 4, putting 1 in each. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to repeat those instructions all the way around. So we're back to our decrease. And then 1, 2, 3, and 4. Decrease. And then 1, 2, 3, and 4. Decrease. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4. Decrease. And then 1 in the last 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and our stitch count after this round is now 30, so give it a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, so now in the pattern it says, do not fasten off. Here we will begin the legs, but first single crochet to the middle of the back of the doll if you are not already there. So you should end up right here after this round at the back of the doll, right somewhere in the middle. And to tell if you're there, I like to just squish this guy down so he's flat, and then you can see where our stitch is right here, right? And does he line up with the middle of the doll, which is the middle of the nose? Yes. So obviously we're at the back of the doll here, and that's where you want to be, at the back in the middle. So we know it's the middle because we did line it up, and we know it's at the back because it's at the back of the doll. So that's where you want to be. If you're not there for some reason, then make sure you crochet until you get to that back middle. And we're going to start the first leg. So it says here that the first leg is worked continuously from the middle of the back of the doll. So that's exactly where we are. So this should be where you just left off. Yes, it is. To make the first leg, we will begin by dividing the body of the doll in half. The last round of the body that we just did, so round 29, had 30 stitches. Okay, it says, so we're going to split that in half so that the first round of each leg has 15 stitches, because 30 divided in half is 15. So note that when you crochet, single crochet into the 16th stitch, so round 1, we're going to skip 15 stitches. Those stitches that we're skipping, those are for the second leg, so we're leaving those behind. We're going to single crochet into the 16th stitch and then place our stitch marker to mark the beginning of the round. Note, when you single crochet into the 16th stitch, it will be on the front side of the doll across from where you are right now. So when you do that, you're going to have to bring your crochet hook up and over and twist it so that you go into the front of the doll. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So we're going to skip 15 stitches. So here we are. Here's our first, where our stitch marker is. So we're going to count 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. These stitches are all left behind for that second leg, and we're going to crochet into this 16th stitch right here. But as you can see, it's all the way across the doll. Okay? So right now, I'm just going to take this marker out. I'm going to mark it into the 15th stitch, just so I know I'm going to go one in front of it. This here is the 15th stitch. I'm skipping all those, so I'm going to go into the one right here beside where I just marked it. So to do that, I'm going to take, and I'm just going to kind of squeeze it closer together. I'm going to turn it, so now the front of the doll is facing me. Okay? And then I'm going to take, and I'm going to go right into that 16th stitch. Okay, hold on to that working yarn nice and tight there as you work around and flip that hook. So now you're going in. So here's the front of the doll, and I'm going in at the front to that 16th stitch, and I'm going to put a single crochet there. I'm going to take, and I'm going to put my stitch marker right at the top. That one's going to be a tricky one to find. It's going to be tiny. So put your stitch marker there to mark the beginning of the round. So that's 1. And now I need 15, so I'm going to count all the way around as I go, putting 1 in each. So 2, 14, and last one right there by the stitch marker, 15. Whew. Okay, so round 1 of the first leg is done. So we've split that doll in half, okay? So if you want to mark here, so see, you can do this now or do this later. This here is part of the first leg. So this next stitch right beside it, that's going to be part of the second leg at the back of the doll. So you can put a stitch marker there right now. I'm just telling you to, because I'm going to show you another way just in case you don't when we get around to making that second leg, just to figure out what stitches belong to the second leg and which stitches belong to the first leg. Okay, so round 1 is done. So now we're on to round 2. We're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to do a decrease. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and I'm going to single crochet right there where it was. So that's 1. I'm going to replace my stitch marker. And then I'm going to do 1 in the next 3. So that was 1. So I'm going to go 2 and then 3. And then here's where we have our decrease. And we're doing that the same with the invisible decrease going into the front loops. So there's our decrease. And then we're going to repeat that. So 1 in the next 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to decrease. and decrease. And 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to end off with a decrease right there at the very last before you meet back around. Okay. Okay, so rounds 3 to 7, we're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and that's for a total of 5 rounds. So right now I would pause, add some of your stuffing here to the body. Okay, and then as you're working up the leg, you can add just a little bit more stuffing as you go. Okay, and then you're going to single crochet around that first leg for another 5 rounds, and then meet back up with me when you've got 5 rounds of that first leg completed. Alright, so here we have completed the 5 more rounds of the leg, and that was 12 stitches in each round, replacing the marker as we went at the beginning of each round. So now we're on to round 8 of the leg, first leg. So on that instruction it says to single crochet 2 together and then 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and repeat that around. So first we're going to do a decrease. That's our single crochet 2 together. Okay. We'll replace that stitch marker. And then 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Single crochet 2 together, so we're just repeating now, and then 1 in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. So now it says your stitch count should be 10. So that was the last round of the leg, so we're going to give that a double count, make sure we've got 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes. Okay, we're going to pull up on our yarn, leaving a little tail. We're going to snip that off. Okay. And we can remove our marker now. Then we're going to add any last little bits of stuffing into that leg. Here we go. And once you have it stuffed to your liking, I like to do mine fairly full. I don't like to leave room for finger movement in there. So once you have it stuffed, we're going to take our yarn needle. We're going to thread that tail onto the needle. And then it says here in the pattern that we're going to weave the needle into the front loops of the last 10 stitches, inserting the needle from under the front loop in an upward motion. So what that means is we're going to count as we go. We're going to have 10 stitches. So we're going to go over here to the first one. Get that stuffing out of the way for now. So this is the first one. We're just going to go into that first front loop. We're just going to pull it up through. So that's 1. And we're going to do that for all the stitches around, counting as we go, so we make sure we have 10. So just into the front loop in an upward motion. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm going to lose it. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, we've got all the stuffing we want in there, and now what we do is we're just going to pull on that tail, and voila, it closes right up. Okay, we're just going to pull that tight, make sure. Then we're going to take, and the pattern tells you this as well, to fill the rest of the stuffing, pull it closed, and then in one row below here, so see how this is leading out this way. I'm going to not flip it over and go to the other side or anything. I'm going to follow it right down. I'm going to go one row below. I'm just going to weave that in to a few stitches in the row below, and this will just help kind of flatten out that point right there. And then once I've weaved it into a few, I'm just going to go in and come out at any random point, pull that yarn, and then I will just snip that off. And that is our first leg complete. Okay, so we're going to begin making the second leg by first figuring out which are the 15 stitches that belong to the second leg. When you get up close here to the first leg where we just made, you can see that some of these look like they might be stitches that belong to the second leg, but they don't. They're actually ones that lead up to that first leg. So we need to mark out those 15 stitches that actually belong to the second leg. So we can do that by looking at the stitch and seeing if it joins to that first leg. So here, this looks like it belongs to the second leg, like I should be making it in the second leg, but when you actually look, it leads up to stitches there in the first leg. So this one here, and I'm at the back of the doll right now, facing me when I'm looking. This one here is the first stitch that's solo. It's not connected to anything to do with that first leg. So this is an actual stitch that belongs to that second leg. So I'm going to just pop a marker in there. Okay, so I know. And then from there I'm going to count 15. So I'm going to count, this is 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this one here is the 15th stitch that I'm going to be working in. So I'm going to place a marker there. And now look, when you look at it, this here honestly looks like it should have been a stitch maybe that joined into that second leg, but it's not. So these ones here, anything between that needle, are all part of that first leg. So what we're going to do when we get to this one and this one is we're going to actually toggle or join in a few of these spaces. So we're not going to increase our stitch count at all, but we're going to toggle some of these spaces into that first round of the second leg so that we don't have any gaps or anything when we're finished with the doll. Okay, so leave these in here for now. Okay, and then we're going to take our yarn, just leave a little bit of a tail and fold it over. Pull through the yarn on that third stitch from the back marker. So here's the back of the doll, and here's my marker that I placed. So I'm going to pull through on that third stitch. So here's 1, 2, and 3. And this third stitch right here, and it really doesn't matter where you pull it through. I just did this so that I could use numbers to tell you about the toggling in the pattern. So pull this through that third stitch. Okay, try to keep it nice and close and tight. And then I'm going to grab my working yarn and leave that tail. I'm going to chain 1 right here. And I'm going to go back into that third stitch and place my first single crochet of the round. Okay. And then once I've got that made, I'm going to place the stitch marker right there at the top of that stitch to mark the beginning of the round, so I know exactly where I start it when I get back to it. Okay, and I've split my yarn there a little, so I'm gonna fix that because I don't like split yarn. Okay, so that was 1. So now it says to single crochet all the way around until you get to this other marker here, and that should be the 13th stitch. 12. Okay, so here I've got 12, and then on the 13th, right where this marker is where we're going to do a toggle to kind of bring in that stitch, those spaces from that first leg, so that there's no gaps at the end. So I can take that stitch marker out. I don't need it anymore. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into that next stitch where our marker was, and this is the 13th stitch, and we're going to pull up a loop, but then we're going to keep it there, and I'm going to keep it close to my work. I'm not going to pull it up so that there's a lot of working room. I'm just going to skip right on over. You can see that space right beside, that's a space that belongs to that first leg, and if it's a really big space like this right here, you see that? You can even work kind of under a leg, maybe right there, just to bring that up so that there's no gap, okay? So I'm going to go into that space, and I'm going to draw up a loop. So now I've got 3 loops on my hook. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull through all 3 of those. And I was trying to keep that as close to the work as possible, but I still want tension so that when I get back around, I can actually work into those stitches and they're not too tight. So that's 13 stitches now that we have. Okay, so now what we're going to do is this over here is the 14th stitch, but we're going to grab up this space and this space right before that stitch. So 2 spaces and then the stitch, and we're going to toggle all of those together. Okay, I'm going to do that so you can see it here. So I'm going to go into this space right here. I'm going to pull up a loop, trying to keep it close to the work as possible. And then it's going to poke that needle into the next space right beside that space we just worked. Okay, so I'm going to poke that in and draw up another loop onto the hook. So now I've got 3. And now I'm going to jump on over to that actual space that's a real stitch in the second leg. I'm going to remove that marker. Okay, and right there I'm going to go into that stitch. I'm going to grab the working yarn, and now I have 4 loops on the hook. Okay, so now I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull through all 4. Go slow. There, so now I've got 14 stitches. So I worked some of those spaces of that first leg into the stitches there, but I didn't increase the actual stitch count. So now I've just got 1 more stitch. So that was 14. I got 1 more stitch right here, the last stitch that I've got to do for the round to make it 15. Okay, so now I'm back around. I've got 15 stitches there for the first leg. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to the second row of the leg, and it's just going to be exactly the same as the first. Was 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to do a decrease. So here we've got to remove our stitch marker for now. We're going to single crochet into that first stitch. Could be a little tricky because we did a chain 1 and everything there, so there's kind of a lot going on. So just take your time and find it, keeping your work fairly close to it if you can, but not pulling tight. You want to keep your tension good. And then replace your stitch marker. So it was 1 in the next 3, so that was 1. And then 2, and then 3, and then we do our decrease. So decrease right here. Okay. And then 1 in the next 3. So it'll be 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to do a decrease right here. So decrease, and then 1 in the next 3. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then we will end off with a decrease, which is right here in this middle of the leg. So if you see here this space, see how there's still like a little bit of a space right here? Okay, so instead of going into just the front loop for my decrease for this guy, I'm going to actually go right down into that last loop of the space and grab that up. So I'm going to close up that little space. And then I'm going to go on over, and I'm not working in just the front loops for this last one. Normally I do. So this is a decrease. So now I have 3 loops on my hook, and I pull through all 3. And that's the last finicky part of this leg. So now all you got to do is your, 5 rounds? Yes, 5 rounds. So your stitch count right now has just dropped down to 12. So do your 5 rounds of 12. And then you do your single crochet 2 together, 1 single crochet in the next 4, just like you did this first leg, and then weave it all through. Make sure you stuff it and pull it tight. And once you've got that second leg done, we will meet back up. Okay, so here we have made the second leg, and he's looking pretty cute, kind of like a tooth with a head, but don't worry, he'll get cuter once we start to add the little arms and his ears and everything. So now I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to show you how to make the arms. You'll need to make 2, so I've got one here, and I'll show you how to make one, and then you can just go ahead and make the other one. So we're going to start with the magic ring technique, or you can use the alternate method, which is chain 2 and then work into that second chain from the hook. Okay, but for here I like to use the magic ring. We're going to begin by putting 3 single crochet into the magic ring. So there's 3. Okay, then we're going to give it a pull. But I'm not going to pull it too tight because, as you can see, I don't have a lot of room to work in. So I'm not pulling it tight just to leave myself a little bit of room to work. And then I'll pull it tight after the second or third round there, okay? So I'm going to reach across to that first single crochet, and that second round of the pattern for the arm calls to put 2 single crochet in each stitch. So that here I'm in my first one, I'm going to put 2 single crochet into it. So here is 1. I can get it to pull through. Oh, my yarn split. Okay, so there's 1. I'm going to place my stitch marker there. And notice I'm just going to leave this tail, I'm just going to let it dangle for now, okay? I'm not going to try to weave that in as I go just yet, because I'm going to need that tail to pull it tight here in a bit. So I'm going to go back into that exact same stitch that I just worked and put another one in it for 2. Then it's a little tricky here to see what the heck is going on. Where is that next stitch? So if you follow along where you just did, you can see there's a kind of a cramped V right there where you just worked into. So you're looking for that next V, and it usually folds itself over. So it's actually right there, kind of cramped up, pretty tiny looking. And it always wants to invert itself, so it flips itself inside out when you're working with teeny tiny stitches like this. So you're going to always have to kind of go underneath here and pull that up. Okay, so we're going to do 2 in this one. So 1, and this is easy now. I just follow that back down into the exact same space I was and put a 2nd. And now for the last one, I'm just going to stretch this out a bit, see where I'm going to work. So now you can see that this one has flip-flopped itself right inside out, almost. So it's kind of laying super crooked right down in there. So I'm going to work into that last stitch, and like I said, it's trying to like flip the other way in and out, so I'm going to go kind of under that and grab it, and then put my last 2 for the round right in that one. And this one's easy. I just follow that back down to where I just put my stitch in. And, oh, did I go off camera there? Sorry, guys. Put my last one. So that, now I have 6. But it still looks like it's trying to fold inside out. So I'm going to work it here so that it flips the right way. Okay, and this will help to be able to see the stitches a little better. Then I'm going to give that tail just a little tug to close that up. Okay. Now it says for rounds 3 and 4, so that's 2 rounds, we're going to put just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So our stitch count right now is 6, so 1 in each round, so that'll be for 6. So here's our first one for round 3. So I'm going to put my stitch in, and then I'm going to replace my stitch marker. Okay. And then it almost seems like it's a bit of a stretch on over there to that next stitch. Okay, it's like they kind of get elongated and kind of start wrapping, like it's a longer reach than normal. So just be wary of that. So 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that was round 3, and now we're going to do the same thing for round 4, just putting 1 stitch in each stitch around. But for this one here, I'm going to start to work over that tail, just to weave that in a bit. So here's our first one for the round 4. I'm going to replace my stitch marker. We need 1 stitch in each stitch around. So there's 2. 3, 4, 5. I'm going to snip this off, but I'm going to not really snip it close to the needle. I'm going to snip it and leave a little bit of length for that tail. I'm going to take and I'm just going to shove that down in there. Let's see, let's use this instead of my finger. Something to poke it down into that hole so it's not in my way. That's just my end. Sometimes when you're working really small and you snip the ends close, they tend to poke out through your work, so I just do that, just to hide them down into the middle of the hand, and then he won't poke out on us. So that was 4, right? 5, and 6. All right, so that completes round 4, and now we're moving on to round 5. For round 5, we're going to do a single crochet, 2 together, and then 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So we're going to start here with a decrease, and I know what you're thinking, this arm possibly cannot get any smaller But don't worry, this is the only decrease that we're going to do. We're just doing it just to shape his hand, give it a little bit of a shape for us there. So there's our decrease. And then we're going to replace our stitch marker there at the beginning of the round. Okay, and now this next stitch, so the decreases here are going to mess you up because this is where I worked, but I'm going to jump way on over. It's going to be a big stretch there to get to the next stitch. So there's one. We're going to do one in the next four. So 2, 3, and 4. So now we have a stitch count of 5 for the arm. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. So from here, we're going to single crochet rounds 6 to 10. So that's 5 rounds of crocheting around in each stitch. We're placing the stitch marker at the beginning of each round, and you should have a stitch count in the rounds of 5 stitches per round. So I want you to do that for 5 more rounds, and then we'll meet back up. Okay, so here I've completed those last 5 rounds. So I have a total of 10 rounds for my arm. So here you want to pull out, leaving a tail, okay, and you're going to fasten it off, so give it a snip. You can remove that stitch marker now. Okay, so here you have the option, you can just leave this tail and sew it onto the doll. So you would just line it up when you have your coat, so at the time for doing the doll, and then you would just like sew it, using this tail, sewing it onto the doll. But what I like to do is I will finish it off like I did the feet, or the legs, the bottom. So I'm going to go through those front loops. So I've threaded it onto a yarn needle, and I'm going to go through those front loops in an upward motion through all the stitches. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right here. Pull it tight, weave it in the row below, okay, into a few stitches there. And then just go in and come out at any random spot and snip the end. And then we'll take and fasten these arms on with like a crochet thread at the end. When we get to the coat part where we know where the armholes are, then we're going to figure out exactly the placement for the arms. So we're going to take and set these aside for now. And we're going to go on to making the ears. So the ears, we begin again with a magic ring. Okay, or the alternate method, which is chain 2, and then work into that second chain from the hook. So in your magic ring, you're going to do 3 single crochet. I know what you're thinking, working tiny again, but this does not last long. The ear builds up fairly quickly. So we've got 3. We're going to pull that again, not pulling it too tight, leaving room there so we can have room to work because it's such a tight situation. Okay, so we're going to leave that tail dangle for the first round again. We're going to jump on over to connect the circle. Okay, and we're going to do 2 single crochet in each stitch around. So in my first one, I'm going to replace my stitch marker. There we go. And go back into that stitch for 2. Now I'm going to look for that second one, which is kind of flip-flopped, what wants to invert itself or go inside out. So I'm going to work under it just to pull it up. and I'm going to put 2 single crochet in there. So 1, 2, and then that last one is the tricky guy to find. He is almost totally inside out here. There we go, see him? So we're going to put 2 in there. So 1 and then 2. And then because our work wants to turn itself inside out, we're going to flip it the right way. Okay, like so. So for round 3, we're going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So we'll take out our marker, put our first single crochet in there, and replace our marker. Okay, I'm just going to give that a tug because you could see that working itself out, that magic ring. Okay, so 1 in each stitch around. So for the next one here, I'm going to flip that yarn tail over and just work over it for the round. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'll snip that tail, but I'm not going to do it too close to it. I'm going to try to tuck it down in there into the circle so it doesn't work its way out and have floofy ends poking out of the ear. Okay. So I'll stuff it down in the middle there. All right, so round 4 is 2 single crochet in the next stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next. So it'll go 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, all the way around. So we'll take out our stitch marker, and in the first we're going to do 2. So first we'll do 1 and then replace our stitch marker. We're going to go back in for 2 and then 1 in the next. 2 in the next. So 1, go back in for 2, 1 in the next. 2 in the next. 1, go back in for 2, and then 1 in the next. Okay, so now we should have a stitch count of 9. So give it a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes. Okay. Round 5. 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Okay, and then 2 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then 1 single crochet in the next 3. So we'll do this step by step. I'll take out our marker, put our first stitch in and replace our marker. So 1 single crochet in the next 3. So that was 1. So the next one will just have 1. So that's 2. And then 1 in the next for 3. Now it goes 2 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So that's 3 increases. So 1, go back in for our first increase. Go to the next and we'll go 1. Go back in for 2 for our second increase. Go to the next stitch. Go in for 1, go back in for an increase, so that's 3 increases. Now it says 1 single crochet in the next 3. So 1 in the next, 1 in the next, 1 in the next. Now you will have a stitch count of 12. So give it a double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So round 6, we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So that'll be our stitch count of 12. So here's our first. We'll replace our stitch marker. We're going to go 1 in each, counting up to 12. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Perfect. Round 7. 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So we'll do that step first. So take out our marker, do our first stitch and replace it. So that was 1. So 1 single crochet in the next 4, so 1 in the next, that's 2. 1 in the next, that's 3. 1 in the next, that's 4. Now the next step says 2 single crochet in the next 4. So that's 4 increases. So 1, go back in for an increase. That's 1 increase. Go to the next, do another increase. That's 2 increases. Go to the next. It's 1, go back in for 2. That's 3 increases. And then another increase right here. So 2 in that one for 4 increases. And then it says 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So 1 in the next, 1 in the next, 1 in the next, and 1 in the last. Now our stitch count is up to 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Round 8. Okay, we'll do it step by step. So 1 single crochet in the next 6. So we're going to do our first one here and replace our stitch marker. So 1 in the next 6, so that was 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Doing 1 in each of those. Now it's 2 single crochet in the next 4, so that's 4 increases. So in the next one is an increase, so increase, that's 1. 2 increases, so go 1, go back in for 2, that's our second increase. Go to the next for 1, go back in for an increase, that's 3 increases. Go to the next and do another increase, 2 in that one for another increase, that's 4 increases. Now it says 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches. So we'll count up to 6, putting 1 in each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so now our stitch count is up to 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Rounds 9 to 12. Okay, so we are going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around for rows 9 to 12. So that's 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 4 rounds, okay, of putting 20. So you do 4 rounds and then meet back up with me. Okay, so here we are. We've added our 4 rounds with a stitch count of 20 stitches per round. So now we're going on to round 13 for the ear. So for round 13, we're going to do single crochet, 2 together, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and repeat that around. So it'll be decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, all the way around. So we're going to do our decrease going into our front loops only for the invisible decrease. Replace our stitch marker, and then it's 1 in the next 2. So 1 in the next, 1 in the next. And then we're going to repeat that pattern all the way around. So we're going to decrease, 1 in the next, 1 in the next, and then decrease, 1 in the next, 1 in the next, decrease, 1 in the next, 1 in the next, decrease, oops, and then 1 in the next, and 1 in the last. Now for the last round, round 14, all we do is single crochet all the way around and we'll have a stitch count of 15. You can give that last round a double count if you want before you go on, but I'm just going to skip ahead here and go to 15. So we're 1 in each, counting up to 15. So we're at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, so then when we get back around, we've got this adorbs little ear. So we're going to take out our stitch marker. We're going to pull up a nice long tail, like 20 inches or more long. And then we're going to give it a snip. It's so long, this tail, because we're going to use that tail to sew the ear onto the head. So you go ahead and make your second ear and then meet back up with me and I'll show you how to line it up and sew it onto the head. Okay, so here we have both ears made. So I'm going to show you how to attach the ears and sew them on. So I'm just going to set one aside. I'll show you one here. And in the pattern, it describes it for you where you should lay it out. So it says to pin the top of the ear 8 rows down from the top of the head and spaced 1 inch away from the eye. And then pin the bottom 5 rows down in line with that top. So here I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm 1 inch away from my eye here. And then I've gone straight down in line and I've gone down 1, 2, 3, 4, and on the 5th row I pinned it. So now if I were to place the bottom of the ear and the top of the ear into those pins where I have them, like this, what happens is you will see a natural curve happen to the ear, okay, like so. And then you'll sew it on, so you'll follow that curve around the front, sewing it on, and follow the curve around back up to the back. Alrighty? So to do that, I like to use what's called, I guess, an invisible seam. So you're going to go in here to this stitch where your top marker is, like so, grabbing it. You can remove that top marker and set that aside for the next ear. Okay, and then what you'll do is you'll go in line here with that front loop of the ear. So you're not going through both loops, you're just going in through that front loop. Okay, and then you will pull through and you're going to go back into that exact same stitch you just worked. Let's see here, it's hard to hold the doll and show you. So I'm going to go back down in line with that stitch I just worked, but I'm going to come out. When I come out, I'm going to come out in line with the next stitch that I want to do for the ear. So I'm going to go into the doll again, going down, like so. And then I'm going to go up into that front loop there of the ear and pull through. And then once I've gone through the front loop, I'm going to follow that down, going into the doll, right straight in line from where I just stitched. I'm going to work my needle over so that it comes out in line. You guys see that? With the next stitch that I'm going to work. Okay, and as the ear curves, you'll work your way around, okay, lining up with those curves. So now here I'm lined up to go into that next front loop of the ear. So I'm going to do that. and then I go back down, following that into the head of the doll and coming out in line with where I want the next stitch of the ear. And you do that all the way around the front here. You go all the way around the back, doing the front loops there of the back of the ear and back around. And once you get to the top, you just poke it in and come out at any random spot in the back of the head and snip your yarn. And that is how you're going to sew the ears on, and then you'll do that exactly for the other side, lining it up 8 rows down, 1 inch away from the eye, and then the next bottom of the ear is 5 rows from that pin in line so that you get a slight curve. Okay, so sew both of the ears on, and then we'll meet back up to start the coat. Okay, we're back. We've got the ears sewn on with a nice invisible seam there, and we're ready to begin the coat. So the coat is worked using your 5mm crochet hook and whatever color of yarn you have decided to make the coat in. I have here the clay in the Bernat Super Value worsted weight yarn. Okay, and then we will also, just to let you know, be working in rows. So we're going to be working back and forth. We're not doing rounds anymore for the coat. And at the beginning of each row, we're going to do a chain 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We're going to always single crochet into the base of that chain 1 throughout the entire coat. Okay, so it is worked in the 5mm crochet hook, but to begin I like to either chain really loosely or I use a larger hook size. So here I use the 6.5mm just so that I know that these are nice and loose, because the chain stitch is much smaller than the crochet or the single crochet stitch that we're going to be using. So I use a larger hook size just so that that first round doesn't look bunchy or scrunchy or a little bit small. So to begin the coat, you're going to chain 29, okay, and that's just a slip stitch and then 29 chains. And then you're going to, with your 5mm crochet hook, you're going to put 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So right here is my first chain from the hook. So I'm going to go into that. That's the first one. I'm going to go right on over to the second. I'm going to do a single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet in each chain to the end, and I will end up with 28 single crochet. So meet back up with me when you've chained 29 and worked back the other way, so you have 28 single crochet. Okay, so here I've got my 28 single crochets. So for row 2 of the coat, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, we're going to single crochet into the next 8. So we're doing into the base of that chain 1 is our first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then the next step is 2 single crochet in the next stitch. So right here is an increase. So we're going to go 1 and go back in for 2. And then the next step is single crochet in the next 10 stitches. So that's just 1 in each, counting up to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then the next step is 2 single crochet in the next, so that's an increase. So 1, and then we're going to go back in for 2 for our increase, and then lastly we're going to single crochet in the last 8, so 1 in each, counting up to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in that last one that sometimes gets folded down around the end is 8. Perfect. Row 3. So we're going to chain 1. We're going to single crochet in the next 7 stitches. So at the base of that chain is our first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then here we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip 3. So 1, 2, 3, skip. And in that 4th one, we're going to do a single crochet, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 10 stitches. So that was 1, counting up to 10, 1 in each. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we're going to do chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip these 3, 1, 2, 3, skipping, and then single crochet in the last 7. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Sometimes that last one is a little hard to see at the end of rows when we're working, so don't forget it. 7. Row 4. We're going to chain 1 and turn. Single crochet in the next 7. So first one is at the base of that chain 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now in this space right here, we're going to do 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 10. So right there next to that space, don't skip that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which brings us to this next space right here where we're going to put 4 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're just working over top of that chain, and then 1 single crochet in the last 7 stitches. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that last one can be tricky to see, verse 7. Now in the pattern it says pause. Now that we know where the armholes are, which are these guys right here, we're going to line it up on the doll and attach the arms. So grab your doll, your arms, some crochet thread, and a yarn needle, and meet back up. Okay, so here I have my doll, and I have the first few rows of my coat done, and this here where we chained, our starting chain, is the top. Okay, so I'm going to lay my doll, and I'm going to line that top up with the neck of my doll, like so. Okay, and then I'm just going to wrap this coat so that it meets right here in the middle. Okay, And just holding that spot, I'm going to take 2 markers of some sort. So I have yarn needles, and then just right here where my armholes are of my coat, I'm going to mark it with my pins so I know that the coat will fit once I get it on. Okay. Then I'm just going to take this little 4 rows off, set it aside. Then I'm going to double check and make sure that these pins are on the same row. So I'm just going to follow across, and yes, they are. So they are on the exact same row. They're lined up just below the ears, like so. So I'm going to leave those pins in, and then I'm going to take another yarn needle here. And what I have here is crochet thread. It's called Aunt Lydia's crochet thread. It's a fairly strong holding thread. It's not like sewing thread. You can also use fishing line or any type of strong holding thread. Nothing thin that will break though. And you want to thread it onto your needle and double it over. And you want it doubled, you want it to be a good 25 inches or so. Okay, so that's doubled over. So I'll set that aside. And then you're going to take your arms that you have made, and you're just going to lay them out here beside your doll, like so. Then you'll start with the one arm, and you'll pick it up, and you're going to thread it through the second row down, going through the stitches, okay, not catching any thread, so you want the thread to pull through nice and smoothly, not getting caught on any yarn. So I'm going to pull it through, leaving a long tail, like so. Okay, so that was back to front, so now this is the front, so I'm just going to lay it back down like this, beside my doll. Then I'm going to go in where my first marker is here, and I can take that out once I go in. I'm going to come out on the other side of my doll, exactly where the other marker is. Okay, so come out, and I can take that marker out now. Okay, I'm going to pull through. Okay, and I'm just going to leave the first arm just laying there beside the doll. The trickiest part of this is just not getting everything twisted. So then I'll take, and I'll pick up my second arm, and now this time I'm going to go in from front to back, and I'm going in the same second row down there, just going through stitches. Okay, so now this is the front of the arm, and not getting it twisted. So now I'm going to work back through the doll, going into those exact same stitches I just did. Okay, and come out the other side. And then when I come out, I can pull it so that doll's arm lines up there on that side. And then I will take and scooch this arm up. First, before I do anything drastic, I want to make sure that the arms are exactly how I want them lined up on the doll. Okay, so I'm happy with the placement of them there. So what I'll do here is I'm going to leave it nice long ends. I'm going to snip it. Okay, and set that aside, and then I'll take, and I'm going to tie my ends into a double knot. So when I tie it the first time, I'm making sure that nothing's twisted. And I'm just going to slightly pull it in. See how it kind of pulled in on the doll a bit? And if I'm using fishing line, it's a little harder to take a look there before I tie my double knot. But this yarn holds well, so I just put in my double knot once I'm happy. I might do a square knot, so I'll go through 2 times and then get it nice and close into the back of that arm there. And then I'll take all of these threads, all of these ends, and put them onto my yarn needle. Okay. And I'm going to go right back in here discreetly at the back of the doll's arm. I'm just going to come out randomly wherever. There. And then I will snip that off. And voila! We'll have little arms all attached. Cute, right? Okay, so now we can continue on with the making of the coat. Okay, so we'll set that cuteness aside for a bit. We'll pull this back over. So we were on row 4, but that's okay. The pattern totally walks you through all of that. So lining up and then going on to row 5 of the coat. So we're going to line it back up here. There we go. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. Single crochet into the next 10 stitches. So we're starting at the base of that chain 1, putting 1 in each and counting to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Here we'll do an increase. So we're going to go in for 1 and back in for our increase. Okay. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 10. So putting 1 in each, counting up to 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Here we'll do another increase. So we're going to go in and then back in for our increase, and then 1 single crochet in the next 10. So 1 in each, counting up to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Your stitch count at the end of this row will be 34 if you want to give that a double count. Chain 1 and turn. For row 6, we're going to single crochet in the first 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Here we'll do an increase. So 1, going back in for our increase, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Here we're going to do another increase. So go in for 1 and then back in for our increase. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Chain 1 and turn. Row 7, we're going to single crochet in 14. So at the base we start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, oopsie, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Here we're going to do an increase. So we'll put one in and go back in for our increase. And then we're going to do one single crochet in the next 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to do an increase. So 1, go back in for an increase. And then we're going to do one single crochet in the last 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Chain 1 and turn. We're going to do one single crochet in 16 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Next is an increase, so we're going to go 1, and then back in for an increase. The next one single crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Increase. 1, go back in for an increase. One single crochet in the next 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and in the last 16, chain 1 and turn. One single crochet in the next 18 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then we're going to do an increase. So 1 and then 2. One single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2. Then we're doing an increase again. So 1, go back in for increase, and then one single crochet in the last 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, so here now at the end of that row, row 9, you should have 42 stitches. Okay, so we're going to continue rows 10 to 18, just chain 1, turn, and single crochet across 42 stitches. Chain 1, turn, single crochet across 42 stitches. You do that for rows 10 to 18, so that's a total of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 9 rows, okay? And then when you've done 9 rows of chain 1 and turn, single crochet of 42, we'll meet back up. Okay, so here we have crocheted up to round 18 of the coat, and as you can see, it's taken on a slight curvature, and that's the way I designed the coat, so that at the bottom it it kind of creates this nice base, so when the doll is wearing the coat here, it'll just stand. So if you wanted to set the doll on a shelf or something, it'll just stand for you. Okay, so that's why I did that. So at this point in the pattern, I do have a note that says to try the coat on the doll to make sure that it's the correct length. So I'm just going to try it on him here to give it a double check. So this is exactly how I like it. So as you can see here, it kind of lines up, so it's just ever so slightly right there, just past the doll's foot, basically even with it. Okay, and that was what will help when it stands, because the feet aren't poking out the coat, so the coat is just flush there with the feet, so that it will help it stand. So if you need to add a row or take out a row, that's okay, because we all have different gauges when we crochet, so you might crochet tighter or looser than I do, so your rows might be a little bit taller or shorter depending on how tight or loose that you knit or crochet. So that's why that may vary. So you can just add or delete a row if you need to adjust the size for it to fit the doll. Okay, so moving on, here now we're going to go on to vertical rows. So that means that I'm here at the end and I'm left-handed, so you're going to be on the other side over here if you're a righty. And you're going to work up the vertical side of the coat, crocheting into the spaces at the end of each of those rows that we just did, so rows 1 to 18, and you will end up with 17 single crochets. So you'll chain 1, and then right here in that space at the end of the last row, you're going to put a single crochet. So that's 1. Then you're going to go into this next space for 2. Okay, and then you're going to find the next space here for 3, and the next space for 4, and the next space for 5, 6, 7, just keep going into the next space, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and the very top space here will make 17. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to go all the way back down for 17. So that's vertical row number 2, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn and come back up for vertical row number 3. And when you've got to that point, meet back up with me. Okay, so here I have completed my 3 vertical rows. So I crocheted in the ends for 17 and kept my stitch count the same for each row thereafter. So 17 on the way back and 17 for row 3. So now I'm going to not turn my work. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to work across this top right here. So I'm going to put 2 stitches right here, so 1 at the end of these rows that I just made the vertical rows, and then I'm going to go in, remember that starting chain where we had 28 single crochets altogether that we worked into, so there'll be those 28 chains there plus the 2 at the end for a total of 30. Okay, so we're going to chain 1. I'm going to go into that space right there for 1. Okay, and then I'm going to go into the space right beside it for 2. And now here you can see where we're starting with the chains. So I'm going to work into the chain only. And this is 3, 4, 5, and this is just the top loop of that chain that was left over, 6, 7, because we already worked into the other side of the chain loop, 8, 9, 10, 29, and 30. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is chain 1, turn, do 30, and I'm going to do that for rows 2 to 4 for the top horizontal row. So I'll have a total of 4 rows. So I'm going to work back this way, chain 1, turn, back this way, chain 1, turn, back this way, and I'll end up back lined up with those vertical rows that I did. So, and keeping your stitch count at 30 for each row. Meet back up with me when you've got to that point. Okay, so here I am. I've done 4 top horizontal rows. So I've gone back and forth, and now I'm lined up here where I did those vertical rows. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to single crochet into that top space of the horizontal row I just made. And I'm going to go into the next space. So that's 2, and then I'm going to go into that next space right there for 3. Now I've met back up with these stitches here from the vertical rows. So I'm going to just go into this next stitch right here and join with a slip stitch. And then I'll pull up, fasten off my yarn, and then I'm going to weave in that end. Okay, so weave in your ends for your coat, and then meet back up with me. I'll show you how to do the coat sleeves. Alright, so here we are. We've got the coat made. Now we just need some sleeves for the coat. So to do that, we're going to start with a chain 13. Okay, so just with your 5mm crochet hook, crochet loosely, chain 13. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then in the second chain from the hook, we're going to single crochet and then single crochet each chain to the end. So we'll end up with 12 single crochets. So there's 2, 3, 11, and 12 right here. So now all we do is rows 2 to 5. We're going to chain 1, turn, and we're going to have a stitch count of 12 for each row for a total of 5 rows. If you would like sleeves that you roll like this, where you would kind of have them longer and then roll them up like this, then you would do 7 rows. Okay, with the stitch count being 12. So meet back up with me when you've got your 5 rows done and the stitch count is 12 for each row. Chaining 1 and turning and single crocheting into the base of that chain 1 for each row. Alright, so I have here my teeny tiny little sleeve started, and I've made 2. So I've done chain 13, 12 single crochet across, and then 5 rows of that. And now I've got an extra long sewing tail here, because we're going to first sew it together like a tube, and then we're going to sew it on using all the same thread. So what we do is we fold this rectangle here so that the short ends come to meet each other. Okay, so here I've got it connected to this end. So I'm going to go into that little kind of knot looking thing on the other side, okay, and pull through. And then I'm going to come back over to this side and go back up that knot. And then I'm going to repeat those motions, okay, lining up my stitches as I go. So I'm going to go into first one side. I'm working from the in to the out, okay, and then I'm going to line up, go in, out, come to the other side, go in, out, come to the other side, go in, out. I'm just alternating back and forth, going in and then out, in and then out, and then in and then out, and on the other side, and back over here at the top, and there we go. So now this little guy is a sleeve. Ta-da! Cute, right? So this bottom where we just ended up, is the part that gets sewn onto the coat around the arm sleeve. So to sew it on, you just sew it on the outside here of the coat, and this is the top of the coat where the cuff is. So I like to start down around where the armpit would be, so this bottom here of the armhole. Okay, so I'll just pick a stitch. It's not really an exact stitch or anything, but I'd like to work in the bottom so that the seam that we just sewed up is not visible. Okay, so then the same technique we just used where we went in and then out, I'm going to repeat that, but I'm going to alternate going between the armhole of the coat here, okay, going through one stitch there, and then going through the next stitch here of the coat. I'm going to do that all the way around, going into a stitch on the coat and then a stitch on the sleeve. Okay, and once you work your way all the way around, you just want to weave in the end and fasten it off, and you're going to repeat all of those steps for the other sleeve. So once you have both of your sleeves sewn on, and this is just onto the outside of the coat, meet back up with me and I'll show you here how we sew the coat together. Okay, so here you have the sleeves sewn on to the doll coat. So now it's up to you how you want to keep the coat closed. Okay, you can use buttons or snap fasteners, these little metal things, but to be honest with you, snap fasteners and I have never gotten along, so I try to steer away from them. So for me, I just sewed the coat closed, just ran a little seam up it, and left a large enough opening that you can pull the coat on and off of the head. So to do that, all you do is put the coat on the way you want the doll to wear it. So just overlap like this is how I want it. And then here at the bottom is where I start. So I'll just go into these bottom two inside stitches, lining it up, pulling it through, leaving a little bit of a tail so I can weave that in at the end. And then I just work my way up, following the stitches as I go here at the bottom. Okay. Give that a tug so it's lined up, and then I'll put maybe one more here where this little knot guy is, like that, for the end. And then all I do is just like we did for the sleeves and the ears, the same stitch technique, and I just kind of make sure as I go, stop, keep checking that it's straight. But what I like to do is I'll go into a stitch here at the coat, and then I'll go into this inside loop where it overlaps. Can you guys see that? And then I go back down into the coat where I came out, and then scooch along up so that I'm in line with that next stitch there. Okay, and then just work along like that. So go back down in where I just came out in the coat, being careful not to catch the doll because you don't want to actually sew it onto the doll. And then go into the next bottom loop there of the overlap, stopping every few stitches to make sure that it's straight. And you just do that all the way up to the neck, leaving a large enough opening so that you can pull the head off, or the coat off. Pull the head off. Okay, so next up, finish that up, sew the coat on, and then we can remove it from the doll, and I'll show you how to do all those little finishing touches at the end. Okay, so here we've got our coat sewn together. Okay, so we're going to set that aside for now. I've taken it off of the doll, and for now, for the finishing touches, I like to use a hard bristled brush and a little bit of blush here. So what I like to do is I'll take my hard bristled brush like so, and I'll just vigorously brush the top of the doll's head. Okay, and as you can see, it starts to create this little peach fuzz look, and it just makes the doll feel a little bit, or has like a softer texture to it. So I do that around the top of the head, and then I do it all around the ears. Okay, like so. So do that, brush it out until you got nice, lots of peach fuzz, and then I'll show you what I do here for the blush. Alright, so here I've got lots of peach fuzz that I like. So just enough to make the doll have like a softer appearance and give it kind of that baby fur look. So then I like to add a little bit of blush. You can also use a permanent marker if you'd like to add a little bit of shading to the inner ear and maybe a little bit on the outside. So to do that, I just take the blush, and this is Annabelle Rose Fawn, and if you don't have that, it's okay, just find a nice light pink color. So starting on the inside of the ear here, and I put a liberal amount of blush, as you can see, onto the brush. I'm just going to start around the bottom inner, and I'm going to go in a circular motion. Okay, and I'm just going to really rub that in. So this has got that peach fuzz because I combed it out, so you're now catching all those kind of long hairs. So I'm just going to go in a circular motion, okay, re-dabbing and reapplying it as needed and working my way up the ear. Okay, so I always begin kind of in the innermost part of the ear because that's where I want it the darkest, then I'll work my way out once there's less blush on the brush. Okay, so once you've got it to where you like it, and I like to go about 3/4 of an inch to the top there, like so. Then you just do the other ear with the same technique. Okay, so once you've got them, just really rub that into the fabric, and then that'll get that worked right into the fabric so it's almost like ingrained in there, and then it won't rub off when you touch it or on kids' clothes or whatever if you're giving it away. Okay, so here you can add a few more little accents, get creative if you like. Sometimes I like to just kind of go just along that kind of outside part of the eye, just not the full eyebrow, but just really just a bit on the inner, just to give it just a tiny bit of definition, like so. Okay, and then you can just kind of work that in there with the end of your paintbrush or whatever. Get that worked in good so it doesn't sprinkle off on your clothes. And you can even add a little bit of cheeks, get creative. This is the best part of the whole thing, is just kind of being fun and creative at the end, making it look unique. Okay, so we'll just rub that in, add your cheeks if you want to, or whatever your heart desires, and that is it. So then we can just put the coat back on here. And the blush shouldn't really rub off because we've rubbed it in pretty good. And voila! Pretty adorable, right? So thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this tutorial. My next tutorial, I believe, is going to be on how to crochet a mermaid. I had a lovely lady write into Facebook, and you can hop on over there anytime and join the community. I love ideas on what people want to see next. So she wants to make a mermaid for her granddaughter for Valentine's coming up. So that'll be my next tutorial, and just to help walk her through, and I'll be putting a pattern up for sale for that as well. And if you want to make this tiny little guy that came with the his friend, or his space buddy as I like to call him, I'm going to be putting the pattern for this one here on my website, Untitled.ca. Yeah, so be sure to subscribe, like this video, leave comments if you have ideas as to other ideas, other crochet patterns or tutorials that you would love to see. And Thank you so much, everyone. Take care for now.